Hi, in this video we're going to talk about creating or how to create an Excel worksheet and a workbook. Now it depends upon what version, what operating system you have on your system. Here I have Office 10. If you have Office 7 or Office 10, it'll work the same way. What you're going to do is come down to the lower left hand corner of your screen. Let me move my visual here just down a smidgen, and I have this little Windows box and it says start, and if I click on that I can go to the E's for Excel, or right here where I have type here search, I can type EXCEL and it'll pop up and show me that I have Excel, the app of Excel available to me. Now if you have Windows 8, you're going to want to, there's usually a search button somewhere in one of the many panes that you have on your desktop, and you'll do the same thing, type Excel. If you're working on a Mac, a little bit different there, but still you're going to want to go to your search and you're going to find, or you go to your find and you're going to type Excel, and you should be able to get into that. Okay, so here I am. In my particular case here, I have just been upgraded to Excel 2019. Chances are on the machines in our classroom, they were supposed to have been set up to Microsoft 2000 or Office 2019 over the summer. Hopefully it was. They might be 16. Not a whole lot of difference between the two. New bells and whistles, but not enough to make a difference here for us. Now the first thing I hope you'll notice is the color of the screen. It tends to be a little bit, quite a bit green. Now mine might look different than yours because I might have been in different spots. And I have the same set of windows here. I have a minimize, I have a maximize, and a close. I'm going to maximize to get the full screen. And I have lots of templates here. We'll get into templates later on. Right now we want to just concentrate on dealing with a blank workbook. So I'm going to select blank workbook, and here I have for myself my workbook. Now I'm going to move my viewable screen here just a smidgen. The top line says it's Book 1 Excel. This is my title bar, and in Excel you're going to see Book 1. If I go and do a file new, I'll get Book 2, Book 3 until I name them. It's just going to keep going. 4, Book 5, Book 6. I'm logged in as myself, so that's what I have here. That becomes important if we're going to be sharing our work, and for now it just tells me that I'm logged in. And over on the left hand side I have, this looks like the old-fashioned 3.5-inch floppy disk for saving, or if I hover over it I can see it says Control S for save. And I have undo redos. Well, I can't do anything yet. I haven't done anything. And I have my customize, my quick access toolbar. So you see I have my save and my undo and my redo. If you're always needing to spell check or sort of sending, descending, you might want to consider changing your access toolbar. Please understand that if you do it at home, it's one thing on your own computer, but if you do it in the class, we do have specialized software that at the end of every day, when these machines are turned off, everything goes back to a basic standard. And so anything that you haven't saved or anything you've done on the machine in the classroom will disappear. So be very cautious of that. So we're not going to really play with the quick access toolbar except to say it's available to you. All you have to do is click, and if you click once, oops, I removed my undo. But now if I want my redo, I can go back in. So now I have my undo redo. My next line is my list, my menu tab items. Most of the products for Microsoft Office start you when you launch the program. It starts you in the home, but to the left is the file. I'm just going to click on file for a second. We'll get into this later on throughout the course. This is where we do our saves and our opens, and we can even we can do some publishing, we can do some exporting, but I don't want to get into that right now. I'm going to click on my left arrow back and just get back into this. My home menu, I have underneath it about an inch or two wide for me. This is what we call a ribbon. So inside the home menu, here are all my ribbon choices. Prior to 2013 version of Excel, you would have had to click into or drop down into the home menu to see all these options. As I click on each one, you'll see that they're different. Now, chances are you may or may not have all the same ones. I have Power Pivot on mine. We'll talk about that later on in the course, and I'll show you later on how you can get that onto your system. But I wanted you to see this. Now, if you're not seeing these, I should mention, come back up onto your top menu line, and you'll see ribbon display options. And if you click on that, you can auto hide. This is if you don't want anyone to see anything. But then I'll click on the ellipsis or the dot, 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 and it brings it back up again, and I can just show my tabs. Again, if you don't want people to see everything. But I pretty much like to leave my show tabs and commands all together. I like to see everything. So my ribbons are split up into general sections. Now, if I bring my screen in, so I restore it down so it's a little bit smaller, some of these sections of ribbon get scrunched together to a point where I might not even be able to read them very well. But don't worry about that right now, because you can always click back on the maximize. Because we're going to focus in here mainly on just dealing with Excel, we won't find ourselves all the time going into restore down. We'll pretty much leave our screen maximized so that we can see things. So I have clipboard section, I have a font section. Notice I'm reading at the bottom of every section of the home tab ribbon. Alignment, number, styles, cells, and editing. Now I also have, on a couple of these sections, I have this little drop down arrow, and if I click on any of these, it's what they call you're launching a dialog box. So this is a dialog box launcher. So for example, if I'm sitting at the alignment and I click on the drop down for the alignment, it comes up to format cells. It happens to bring me in on the tab alignment, but I have number, I have alignment, I have font, border, fill, protection. The point is I can get into, oftentimes what I need is right here in the ribbon, but on occasion you're going to have more choices. You might need to launch your Dialog Box Launcher. So I just wanted you to see that that was there. The next piece I want to mention is that every time I click on a separate menu tab, I'm going to see perhaps a couple of them have been repeated, but for the most part, they're their own unique sections. So I've got tables, pivot tables, illustrations, add-ins, charts, 3D maps, spark lines, filters, and don't worry if you don't have 3D map right now, the tours. We'll get into that later on in the course with add-ins. Page layout, what themes? I'll be honest with you, most people wait and use themes when they get into PowerPoint presentation tools. We've got page setup, scaling, sheet options, arranging. Formulas, we're going to spend a lot of time in our function library as we move on in the class. Our data, our review, our history, our help, and our, well, you might not have Power Pivot yet. So let's go back to home. And we have our name box, and we have the functions. So this here is our name box. This is our formula bar. If we're in the middle of doing something and want to cancel out, we can click on the X. If we want to accept what we have, we can check on the checkbox. And this is if we want to insert a function. So next we have columns. And right now I'm showing A through T, but it keeps going. So if I'm out in cell T1 and I keep going, after Z I get A, B. So it can get quite huge. Just remember to think target audience. If it's too big, it's too far for people to go. And I have rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down to 23. But if I page down, I see more. Okay? So I wanted you to just be aware of that. Now if I can click on the control home, or in my case control function home, it brings me up to cell A1. So I want you to be aware of how to navigate. And I can use my arrow keys or I can use my mouse. If I click on home, in my case, my screen, my home key is blue, so I would have to hold the blue FN button. If I hold blue FN and click on home, it takes me to the beginning of the row that I'm on, not to the beginning of the spreadsheet itself. Notice that right now I'm sitting on cell A4. It says A4 here. Now I'm on H5. It says H5 up here. Down towards the bottom, I have something called Sheet 1, and if I click, I now have Sheet 2, so I can add sheets. Why would I do this? Well, perhaps I want to have something for January and then for February and March, and then I have a summary of the first quarter. Again, different people use them for different reasons. My recommendation is if you only have one sheet, you can leave it as Sheet 1. The minute you go to Sheet 2, name them all. Why? Target audience. If you send something to your boss and he's expecting to see something and he opens up the file in Sheet 2, but you wanted him to look at Sheet 1, he's going to be confused, and whenever the boss is confused, it's going to be your fault. So you want to make certain to not have that issue. And down here towards the bottom, we have the ready. This is our status bar. So we have that particular piece there. Why am I showing you this? On occasion, you'll see errors down here, or you'll see what we're getting into. Other things that I want to make mention of are we have scroll bars, both horizontal and vertical, and I make use a lot of this zoom button. When we start to print, I'm going to leave myself in normal view, but when we start to print, we're going to get page break preview and layout preview, but we're not quite there yet. I'm going to pause this video and create a part 2.